walking with the ricochet. Oh, well, let's settle into our sacred space container here now. Take a deep breath, yes. Let your shoulders relax. Let yourself settle into your seat. Feel yourself being grounded there, and Richard, we could use some music. You know, Mother's Day it's a kind of complicated holiday. It's really joyful for many of us, and so for some of us we have mixed feelings, and some of us have joy and mixed feelings inside one heart. But it's right there on the calendar, even if your mother has died, even if you've been told yet again that you're still not pregnant, or if you've never been more scared than you are right now because you are pregnant. It's Mother's Day. Even if your own mother's priorities included everything but you, there's going to be a Mother's Day Google Doodle with flowers and pink stuff. It's there. Even if you have scars, ones that you can see or ones that you can't, it's Mother's Day. That cake mix commercial is going to roll out 4 times on an hour, even when you can't stop shaking and crying because you can't believe you slapped your little kid today. It's Mother's Day. And we all have to live with that in these silent, breathless moments, because no matter what, mothers are an incredible blessing. Mothering is an incredible blessing. So we're thankful that we can come to unity on this kind of complicated day and be together in our honest diversity, right? Let's be a church where we can acknowledge how for some it's difficult and for others it's very joyful, and we can be right alongside each other. And we don't have to pretend that the depths between us aren't there. We can be a church that fills the space of our differences with a lot of love. Because even in the midst of our broken places, there's room for more love. We can be this kind of a spiritual community, can't we? Do I hear an amen?
Amen.
Hallelujah. So, by way of then setting our sacred space together, I'd like you to close your eyes if you'd like to, and join with me in this prayer. And it's a prayer for all who mother. For all who mother. We pray to you, our gracious Mother, Mother, Father, God, matrix of creation, womb of mystery. We do offer up our grateful hearts on this day. We celebrate motherhood by being grateful for all of those whose lives have nurtured ours. Bring them to mind right now. The ones in your life who've been the life-giving ones. The ones who heal with their very presence. The ones who listen in sympathy and who give wise advice but only when asked for it. We're so grateful for all those who have mothered us, who have held us so gently in times of our sorrow, who celebrated with us in our triumphs, no matter how small or large, who noticed when we changed and grew, and who praised us for taking risks, those who took genuine pride in our success, and for those too who expressed genuine compassion when we did not succeed. We're thankful for all of you on this day, all of our mothers, men and women alike, who from somewhere in their being have freely and wholeheartedly given life and sustenance and vision to us. Oh, our dear Mother, Father of us all, grant us life-giving ways. Grant us strength for birthing and a nurturing spirit, that we may take attentive care of our world, of our little Ashland spiritual community here, and of all of those precious beings who are entrusted to us either by biology or by destiny or by friendship. Give us all the heart of a mother today. And so it is. And so may it be. sing a song that is so familiar and oh so appropriate for today, because it's about how our mothers see us and what we have to share with the world because of the love that our mothering people see us with.
So this song is kind of like an instruction manual. It's This Little Light of Mine, and the choruses are going to go all around the world, trusting in the mother, everywhere I go, in this little light of mine. So you're going to follow along with me. And what I'd like to do is really have you embody a Southern church this morning. Are you with me? Amen. So I'm going to start us out.
Stand up, everybody.
I'm going to start us out, and you're going to know where to come. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
like we're saying, we've all been mothered by someone sometime. We all come from the mother, and to her we shall return. So we've been mothered by the Divine Mother. We've been mothered by our mothers, by so many others around us who have loved us. A grandparent, an aunt, or an uncle. Men can mother too. So many people have lifted us when we've been beaten down and have taught us that we have something to give and that we need to shine in this world. Maybe the mothering that comes to mind this morning was by a teacher or a friend or a loved one, a lover. I invite you now to think about a person who has loved you. It could be your own dear mother. It could be someone else. And just think about that person and say to this person in your heart, "Dear mother, so-and-so. Dear mothering, so-and-so. I honor you today because you did such and such for me." So just take a moment and think about somebody that you in your heart want to honor right now. And now, because speaking our words can make our ritual of remembering more powerful, I invite a few of you, if you wish, to stand in your place and speak out your gratitude for this mothering presence in your life. It will make it vibrationally ring out through the miles. Who are you grateful for?
I want to say that I'm actually grateful for many mothers. I didn't have an attachment to my real mother. And in the last year, I started thinking about how through my life, I've always had an older woman in my life that has taken that place. So instead of then feeling sorry for myself, I started feeling grateful that I've had this experience of having all these mothers that somehow were brought into my life because I had that void. And there was one in particular in my childhood that really, I'm so grateful for her being there. But when she wasn't there, then it seemed like someone else came forward, and then someone else came forward. So even though I'm really grateful for the unity services that I've had in the last 2 years, because there was always sadness because I never really had a mother, even though I had a mother. And now to acknowledge that and to verbalize that some people don't have that and it's okay, was very, very healing.
Oh, great. That's beautiful.
I'd like to honor my Aunt Minnie. And Minnie didn't live an easy life. There was a lot of torment in her life. But when I look back, she was always there for me to offer me love. And so I just really want to honor her and, acknowledge that I appreciate this.
I want to honor my mother and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and I just feel extremely fortunate that she was incredible and beautiful and lively and an artist, and my grandma, they were just both completely nurturing and inspiring. So I feel extremely fortunate.
I want to honor a lady called Ellen Preston. She lives in Houston, Texas. And I lived in Houston for a while and had a theater there, and she was part of that. But it's been a while now. It's been like 10 or 15 years. And she still calls me. She calls me every 6 weeks or every 2 months and tells me how much she appreciated me. And she's done it over all these years. And when I pick up the phone from sale, I think, oh my golly, she still remembers and she's still supportive and she, and I want to acknowledge her and thank her for that. Thank you.
I want to acknowledge Colleen Graham. The original Unity minister here was a dear, dear friend of mine and loved me so much. And she's the only person I know that would have let Bob come out of the woods dressed as a phoenix for our wedding. It was his rebirth, and it was fabulous. And I thank her for letting that happen. And I have to acknowledge my own mother. I would not be who I am today without what she did for me. Very much.
I want to honor the divine lineage of motherhood, as I am in that too. It's such an honor to be a part of the motherhood and step into that. So I thank our Pachamama and our divine lineage for helping us learn how to shine our lights and speak with compassionate hearts, especially to ourselves. Because that's what they see. Thank you, mothers.
Thank you.
I'd like to honor my Earth Mother, Anna. I had a difficult relationship with her, but she named me Mary. And I didn't realize how important it was for me to have the mother, the great mother, as my guardian, and she always has been. So thank you, Anna, for naming me Mary.
I want to honor all mothers. It's a very underpaid job. But it's also priceless.
Great way to say it.
And my mother, who's sitting right here, and I can't even say.
I would like to honor my birth mother, Agnes Catherine Mack Chase, who's been gone since '03, and I still miss her. And she's the one who got me in the kitchen when I was like, hey, big, making homemade rolls in upstate New York and applesauce. And because of her, I got into cooking. And that's been my path for my life, and my path later on. But thank you, Agnes, for Onchi Maka, Sacred Mama, who I get to walk on this good river every day. Thank you. Oh, talk to you.
And I invite you now to go back within for a minute and to think about who you have mothered. Think about some people that you have mothered. Your own children, but it could be others too. Just think in your heart for a minute about who you have mothered. And right now in your mothering heart, whether you're male or female, we can all have these mothering tendencies and feelings. I want you to send out love across the miles to those people that you have mothered. Great Spirit, we're so thankful for our opportunities to give and receive your great mothering love. We know that being a mother is like a rite of passage. There's so much involved in it. It's not easy at times. But today, we cast our lot with the human family, past, present, and future, who have had the courage to mother, who have had the courage to take that leap and birth again and yet again. So right now, with our gratitude, we imagine touching the earth. We're so thankful to be earthlings and to be here and reaching up to the sky and thanking Father Sky. We're so thankful, Spirit, for this opportunity, for this precious human incarnation. With hearts so full of gratitude beyond words, we're present here together. Amen. And I'm going to ask Anya to come and read this beautiful prayer that she's read other times here at Unity. And it's worded in such a beautiful way that's a praise to our mother, Gaia.
Is this on?
Yes.
Our mother prayer was originally written by Valentine Tomberg, who was a Russian philosopher, and he wrote it in 1947. He was in exile in Amsterdam at the time, and he wrote it as a petition to stand next to the Our Father prayer. And I've edited a little bit. We did this, Ilea Moore and I edited it for an Our Mother Day that we did about 10 years ago. It's a beautiful prayer, and he honored the Divine Sophia, as many philosophers did in Russia, for she is the great mother in that part of the world, and there are many, many churches dedicated to Sophia. Our Mother, thou who art in the heart of Gaia, may the holiness of thy name awaken our remembering. May the breath of thy loving presence warm the hearts of all who wander homeless. May the resurrection of thy memory renew our faith eternally. We receive this day your nurturing substance to fill our cup of need, and implore thee to forgive us for forgetting thee. We ready ourselves to receive your blessings. Mother, lead us toward the light and the birth of the Christ within, for love is the kingdom, nurturing is the power, and your wisdom with all merciful grace is the glory, for all peoples, now and forevermore. Amen.
Amen. That is so beautiful. So with this energy that we've gathered here about thinking about those that have mothered us and those that we've mothered, and then our Gaia, Mother Earth, and Divine Mother, all of this pulling together of our thoughts and feelings about mothering, we're going to sing our next song. And this is a song that maybe your mother sang to you. I know I sing it about my daughter, and maybe the Great Mother sings it about us. But I know one mother in this community who I was with, and her sadness as her daughter left us last year, she just kept singing this song over and over as she hugged the body of her daughter who left. So I'll never forget this song from that moment. So it's such a touching song, and just sing it out from your hearts to those that you want to send this mothering love to today.
The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. But when I walked in, I was mistaken. So I hung my head and I cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. I'll always love you and make you happy if you will only say the same. But if you leave me and love another, you'll regret it all someday. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when the skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
heart for all the ones that we love. I'm really thankful to be living in a town where my daughter also lives, and I'm so thankful that she's here. And I have a little gift offering that's from a mother to a daughter. It was said as a spoken word poetry, kind of slam poetry, by this young African-American woman named Sarah Kay. And so I'd like to, I can't do it like Sarah Kay did it, but I want to try to give it to you as a gift of mothers to daughters, and particularly to my daughter. So, if I could have a daughter, instead of Mom, she's going to call me Point B. Because that way she knows that no matter what happens, at least she can always find her way back to me. And I'm going to paint the solar systems on the back of her hands, so she has to learn the entire universe before she can say, oh, I know that like the back of my hand. I want her to look at the world with wonder, as if she's looking up from the underside of a glass boat, to look through a microscope at the galaxies that exist on the pinpoint of a human mind. And still, she's going to learn that this life can hit you really hard and wait for you to get back up just so it can kick you again sometimes. But getting the wind knocked out of you is the only way to remind your lungs how much they love that taste of air. There is hurt here that cannot be fixed by Band-Aids or poetry. So the first time she realizes that Wonder Woman isn't coming, I'll make sure she knows that she doesn't have to wear the cape all by herself. Because no matter how wide you stretch your fingers, your hands will always be too small to catch all the pain you want to heal. Believe me, I've tried. And baby, I'll tell her, don't keep your nose up in the air like that. I know that trick. And I know you're just smelling for smoke, so you can follow the trail all the way back to the burning house so you can find the boy who lost everything in that fire to see if you can save him. Or else to find the boy who lit the fire in the first place to see if you can change him. No matter what I say, I know you'll do it anyway, so I'll always keep an extra supply of chocolate and some rain boots in the closet. Because there's no heartbreak that chocolate can't fix. Well, there's a few heartbreaks that maybe chocolate can't fix. But that's why the rain boots. The rain boots are there because the rain can come and wash away every hurt, don't you know? Because that's the way my mama taught me. Remember, there will be days like this. There will be days like this, my mama said. When you open your hands to catch and wind up with only blisters and bruises. When you step out of the phone booth and you want to fly, and the very people you're trying to save are stepping on your cape. When your boots will fill with rain and you'll be up to your knees in tears. And my mama said that those are the very days that you're going to have to rise up and say, thank you. Thank you. And remember, there's nothing more beautiful than the sea that always rushes up to kiss the shore, no matter how many times she's sent away. You are going to put the wind in win some, lose some. And you're going to put the star in starting over and over. No matter how many landmines erupt in a minute, be sure your mind lands on the beauty. That's a good one. No matter how many landmines erupt in a minute, be sure your mind lands on the beauty of this funny place called life. And yes, on the scale of 1 to over-trusting, I'm pretty darn naive. But I want her to know that this world is made out of honey. It may harden and crumble so easily, but still reach out to taste it. Baby, I'll tell her, remember your mama is a worrier and a warrior. Remember that you are the girl with the big hands and the big eyes. Never refuse to stop shining. Remember that bad things come in threes, but so do good things. Remember to apologize when you've done something wrong, but don't you ever apologize for the way You refuse to stop shining. Your voice is small, but don't you ever stop singing. When anybody hands you heartache and tries to slip war and hatred under your door, or give you a handout on the street corner that says everything is defeated, cynically, just stand up, honey. Stand up and tell them they really ought to meet your mother. I'm really proud of you, Misha, and you inspire my life in so many ways, as our children do. And Misha has, like I'm giving her this gift of the poem, and she's offered to give us a gift of her dance today. So thank you, Misha, for coming and sharing a dance. Thank you for that embodied presence of love. I've asked Karen to come and read a wonderful poem about our children.
This is called About Children. Your children are not your children. They are sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable.
So, I was adopted, and my mother, Flora, fought for me for 6 years to have a second child in an adopted home. My brother was adopted as well. So this song I wrote for my mom in the early 80s, and she died 46 years ago in June. And this song is in honor of the love, not that only that she had for me and my brother, but the love that she embodied as a mother. And so for whatever story you have about your mother, about being a mother, this is in honor of the maternal that is eternal and kind. There's nothing sweeter than your mother singing you a lazy lullaby. The stars have come to meet her. There's that twinkle in her eyes. Hush, my sweet angel, the world is all asleep. Hush, my darling wonder, the lazy lullaby, just a sweet lazy lullaby, whispered softly in my ear, saying there's nothing to fear, and that Mother's always here to love you. Rock-a-bye your troubles and your worries tonight. Sweet dreams will carry you into the morning light. Mother's here to hold you, to soothe your fevered brow, and Mother's here to tell you no harm can come to you now. I want to hear a lazy lullaby, just a sweet lazy lullaby, whispered softly in my ear, saying there's nothing to fear, and that Mother's always here to love you. I want to hear a lazy lullaby, just a sweet lazy lullaby, whispered sweetly in my ear, saying there's nothing to fear, and that Mother's always here to love you. Thank you, Flora Dual Benjamin.
It's beautiful. The most important person on earth is a mother. She cannot claim the honor of having built Notre Dame Cathedral. She need not. She has built something more magnificent than a cathedral, a dwelling place for an immortal soul. The tiny perfection of her baby's body. The angels have been not blessed with such a grace. They cannot share in God's creative miracle to bring new beings to earth. Only a human mother can. Mothers are closer to God the Creator than any other creature. God joins forces with mothers in performing this act of creation. What on God's good earth is more glorious than this, to be a mother? That was written by G.K. Chesterton. Another man honoring motherhood was Martin Luther. You know, he was the great religious protester in the Middle Ages. And he points out that the 5th commandment of the 10 commandments is, "Thou shalt honor thy mother and father, that thy days may be long upon the earth." And at first I thought it said that their days might be long upon the earth, but it says that your days might be long upon the earth. So the 5th commandment is, like Donna was saying a little bit earlier about that song, This Little Light, but it's kind of like, they're guidelines for how to be a good human, you know, and right there, smack dab in the middle of the 10 commandments, is this instruction to us about honoring. So today I'd like to talk to us about that word, honor. Martin Luther said, it's a much higher thing to honor than to love. It's a much higher thing to honor than to love. Honor includes not only love, but also deference, humility, and modesty, directed toward a majesty concealed within someone. You hear that? A humility, a modesty directed towards a majesty concealed within someone. I like that. You know, mothers, they wear many, many hats. Another thing that G.K. Chesterton said is about the mother's career, like one of the mother was saying back there who stood up. The mother's career of being a mother, you know, it's just been really in our day and age that it's been recognized that being a mother is a career. And G.K. Chesterton said, how can it be a large career to teach other people's children about science or math, and a small career to tell one's own children about the universe? How can it be broad to be the same thing to everyone, and narrow to be everything to someone? No, a woman's function is laborious because it is gigantic, not because it is minute. I will pity no mother for the hugeness of her task, and I will never pity her for its smallness. Isn't that great? The honoring of all that it takes to mother. A mother is a chef, a dietitian, a nurse, a philosopher, a cosmologist, a mathematician, a physician, a lawyer, a judge, a spiritual director, a moral compass, a personal manager, a home organizer, a chauffeur, a referee, a head janitor. Faithfulness and respect to her husband is her job too. In short, a mother is a shaper of souls for time and for eternity. Her calling is the greatest and highest vocation on earth. It reminds me of a joke about a father and his daughter who were looking over the father and the mother's wedding picture album. They were strumming through it, and father was telling his little girl, you know, this is when we got married, and the little girl looks up at him and she says, Daddy, is that when Mom came to be our employee? So the vocation of mother, it's a huge job. It's an awesome task, really, right? To provide a little being with education about how to walk and dwell in this universe. So honoring of the task of motherhood. I was involved in an organization called Wages for Housework campaign in the 80s. Some of you might remember that. Wages for Housework. So it was just in the 80s that people were starting to talk about, hey, housework is a job. And if we put wages attached to it, it would be a pretty big source of, you know, GOP. Well, some women in Iceland took a hold of that idea, and they organized that there would be one day, and it was Mother's Day, I believe it was in 1983, when they decided that every single woman in, I don't know if it was Mother's Day actually, it was, because as I think of it, I'm mixed up about that probably, but anyway, it was a day in 1983 when all these women in Iceland decided that they were going to show the world what it was like if women stopped doing what they did. All the mothers stopped, all the secretaries stopped, all of the politician women stopped, and the lawyer women, and whatever they did, all of the women in Iceland stopped, just for one day. And you know what happened, of course. It fell apart. But as we've seen in Michael Moore's recent movie about what he wanted to take from other countries and bring here, because they really got that point across, now their parliament is full of women politicians. The women are paid equal wages for their work, and women and mothers are really honored in Iceland. And I think we've got a ways to go yet here in the United States, you know? Honoring our mothers. Mothers can teach us so many things, you know, about how to navigate in the world. But one of the most important jobs that a mother has is to teach her child how to follow one's own inner guidance system. Children are blessed if we teach them how to follow their own deep inner wisdom. And Donna brought me this poem just on the spur of the moment this morning that really fits with this point. It's a poem by an Indian woman educator, it looks like. says, one day we will see God, the Almighty, the Creator, in every child. And perhaps we will discipline the child as we wish to be disciplined, and forgive the child as we wish to be forgiven, and love the child as we wish to be loved, and uplift the child as we wish to be uplifted, and teach the child as we wish to be taught. For one day we will understand, we will know the child is God recreated, and God is the child manifested in flesh. One day we will see God, the magnificent, the beautiful, in every child. So the honoring of this job of motherhood involves honoring what the mothers are bringing forth. That we would look at children from this aspect of not overlording, not disciplining them in harsh ways, but in these very unconditionally loving ways. Well, when you think about honoring our mothers, and we realize that sometimes our mothers had their ideas about who we ought to be, and so it can be kind of a challenge in some ways to think about honoring our mothers, because we also needed to honor ourselves and our own path and our own light that we need to shine in certain ways. Our mothers might have laid certain cultural expectations on us that were too limiting for us. Children are blessed if we teach them to follow their inner guidance system. I heard a story this week on a TED Talk of a mother in Texas, Christian mother, who realized that her child was 3 years old, starting to get to choose what he wanted to wear and how he wanted to present himself in the world, and he always wanted to wear dresses. Loved pink, and so around the house she was letting him do that. And then it got to be time to go to school, and they went to the Gap to go shopping, and the Gap is very lined up for the boys' clothes on this side and the girls' clothes on this side, and so he was going around the boys' section and he couldn't find anything to wear, didn't want to buy anything there, and finally his mother said, okay, well, you go pick whatever you want from the store. So he ran over to the girls' section and bought a beautiful pink skirt and a flowery blouse. And he said, I want this to be my first day of school, what I'm going to wear. So the mother was on a TED Talk, saying to other mothers out there, how much do you love your children? Are you going to let them be themselves? Or are you going to lay your trip on them? Well, when I think about my mother, she always knew that her job was to give us roots and wings. She always talked about that. That it's a big risk of the heart that the mother has to accomplish inside of her, to know what she thinks and wants for her kids, and yet to let go and let them be themselves. And I want to thank my mother for loving me, and I also want to just thank Unity for mothering me too, and thank our culture for growing, because in my mother's day it wasn't the same as when it is now that this mother from Texas can get on TED Talks and honor that her kid could grow up in this way and know that our culture would support it, right? We're so blessed now that our culture has grown and that so many people's hearts have opened so that children can be accepted and nurtured to be more of who we really are. The greatest gift that a mother can give her child is to train her child in the ways of spirit, right? And so when we think about the ways of spirit, I mean, we used to be taught that God was a strict father, and that was the way of spirit. You know, that you had to obey these rules in a certain way, and that was what the church taught, and that was the path you had to walk. It's amazing that could be laid on the story of Jesus. Because Jesus was such a rule breaker and a person who didn't fit in the culture of his day, when you stop to think about it. So I'm just going to talk about Jesus and Mary for a minute, because it is a lot of our heritage, and many of us have said that we're recovering Catholics or recovering Christians or even recovering Jews, with not in relation to Jesus, but in relation to the same kind of rules that we've been laid on with our Judeo-Christian culture. So Jesus loved his earthly mother very much, and he also loved his divine mother. Did you know that most of the words that Jesus spoke can be traced to the Sophia or wisdom texts of the Hebrew Scriptures? So he knew that he was here to be a prophet of Sophia, of the divine mother goddess. All the times he said, I abide in God and God abides in me, have been attributed to him saying that he abided in God the Father. But if you actually look back into the Hebrew and the text that he was referring back to, he was talking about the Shekinah presence, the divine feminine presence. He was always trying to share with people the sense of the unity that he experienced with God, his divine mother, father. So he often used the phrase, abide in me as I abide in her, the Shekinah. What a huge challenge he was to his dear mother's heart. She had to trust him to such an extent when his life-destiny path led to somewhere that she never wanted it to go. You know, so many of us or our children have gone on paths that our mother's hearts would never choose for them to go. But her faith took her all the way through to seeing her son as resurrected, as eternal, as not separated from her. Jesus, while in his physical form, was constantly trying to get this across to people about who he was, about who we are. The mystical Jesus was describing his essence and ours at the same time when he said things like, very truly I tell you, before Abraham was, I am. That's a direct quote from a Sophia text. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because she has anointed me to bring good news to the poor, recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free. I am the light of the world. All these are Sophia wisdom texts. This is a very vivid description of our life as spiritual beings that frees us from the blinded perceptions of what our world sometimes teaches us about ourselves. We are the light of the world. We are the divine effulgence of the Shekinah. Well, the mother heart of Mary did a supreme job of letting go of the religion and the enculturation of her day to release her son into the fullness of who he was. She did, didn't she? She exercised a supreme faith to trust that his destiny was calling him to an identity that was incomprehensible to her. Like that Khalil Gibran poem says, they come through us, but they're not of us. We can't even go there and who they're going to be in our wildest imaginations. Well, this reminds me of another man I heard talking on TED Talks. And he was telling the story of how he was loved by his mother so much, and she always saw the best in him. But in high school, he got mixed up with the wrong crowd, so to speak, and he got on drugs and drank a lot, and he became a young alcoholic, drug addict. But he was a wrestler, and he became very famous being a wrestler, and he traveled all over the world, and he didn't see his mother much. But when he would go home and be with her, she would say to him, please, just sit down and talk to me for a little while. I just want to be with you. I want you to know I believe in you, and I see who you really are. And he would say, get away from me, Mom. I don't want to hear it. And he would go in his room and slam the door. Well, when he was over in Japan one time in a wrestling match, he got a phone call, and they told him that his mother had died. And he had not reconciled with her, you know. He hadn't grown far enough in his life to really listen to her and take time to let her love sink in. And so now, you know what he does? He goes all over the country. His name's Mark Mirko. He goes all over the country talking to young people in high schools and colleges in recovery mode, you know, like talking to them about not getting strung out on drugs and alcohol, and about his mother. And in every talk he gives, he talks about his mother and how he made such a big mistake in not honoring her, and not listening to her, and not letting her know that he got it soon enough. You know? So it's a beautiful story, and it really touches my heart, because so many times we do go forth living our lives, and we do live in our path and do what we choose and need to do, but we might not let our mothers know enough how we honor them and how we do appreciate the love that they poured into us in the way that they could, the best way that they could. I think about my grandmother too, and our grandmothers, and many of you may be grandmothers, you know, but our grandmothers play a special role for us too, because they often are the peacemakers between what our mothers perceive and how our mothers are wanting us to be, and a greater love that holds us, don't you know? So was your grandmother like that for you, or did you have a grandmother who could hold you in that greater love? I remember one time I got a speeding ticket when I was in my teens, and my mother was so angry at me for the way I was driving, and I said, "Call Grandma." Get her over here. And she came right over, you know, and she stood there and she said, "Now, Joan," my mother, "calm down. You got speeding tickets too." So, right, our grandmothers play a really important role in bringing that broader perspective and be a bridge for us. I often think that if my grandmother would have lived longer, she died when I was only 24, that it would have really helped our family. Because, as you know, my family, we're kind of divided between right-wing Christian and who I am. But I think if my grandmother would have lived, that she was a more non-binary person, you know. And I think that grandmothers get to be that way, and that she would have been able to help our family say, "Wait a minute now, let's sit down and talk about this," you know, and work it through more. But now my mother's a grandmother, and she has lived all the way through to where she is, and I'm so proud of her, because, you know, many of you have heard me talk about her, but she always keeps moving on through to this perspective of union. And she knows in her heart of hearts the greater truth of who God really is. Even though our culture is so confining in some ways, in right-wing Christian terms, about who God is, in my mother's heart of hearts, she knows a greater truth. The great divine mother within each of us trusts us so entirely. She trusts the divine intelligence within all of us, her offspring, that we will ultimately be guided through to a greater truth, through to our truer north, through to our, you know, better perspective on who we each are and who other people in the world are. Think about that. The great mother trusts that we humans will come through. And so she's given us so much, so much responsibility. It brings me to a brief little spiritual teaching I want to give you right now about a parallel that I found between the Kabbalah, which is up here in front of us every week, and New Thought Archives. It says in the Kabbalah, "The healing you want for yourself is but a glimpse of what God wants for you." But this word God here is the Shekinah, the divine feminine presence. So the healing you want for yourselves is but a glimpse of what the Shekinah wants for you. The Kabbalah also says, "As above, so below." It's very familiar to us because we think about that in New Thought teaching too, that what our mind and what our will and what our desire creates will move the heavens, will move God to bring it forth here. So we often talk about the power of our thoughts. The mystery is, at the heart of the teachings of the Kabbalah and at the heart of New Thought teaching, that when you pray, you must pray as if the prayer is already answered. That's what the Kabbalah is saying. When the healing you want for yourself is but a glimpse of what the Shekinah wants for you. Kabbalah and unity teach that the Shekinah wants us to be whole, that God, Goddess, treasures healing and wholeness in all of her creation, and that the Creator's most powerful desire is for the perfection and fulfillment and the completion of her creation, just like a mother's is. So you know the Kabbalah refers to the divine in the feminine, and the Shekinah as the full presence of God's love that is in the smallest part of creation. So in New Thought, somebody said, all of God's presence is in your big toe. And both New Thought and the Kabbalah say that God is like a mirror. God, Goddess, will reflect back to you what you do to the world. Another way to say it is God will only respond to you in the same way that you respond to others. So if you want God to respond to your prayers, you must be God-like. You've got to look in the mirror and be kind to that person you see, because all the fullness of God resides in that person. God's not off in heaven somewhere as a removed, judgmental father. God's not on a mountaintop somewhere. God's not in some sage or guru only. The fullness of the Godhead, the Shekinah, actually lives in you and me. That's what it means. I am a child of God. And like a child and a mother, you are actually mysteriously a mirror of who God is. So look in the mirror and bring God out of yourself if you want your prayers to be answered. If you want them to be efficacious, it can only happen if you honor yourself. Because the Shekinah, the inner divine presence of God, love, simple, pure, unconditional love, is all through you. It's in every cell of your being. It's through you and in you. You get that, right? You've been coming to Unity for a long time. This isn't news to you, but it's so beautiful to realize that the Shekinah, the fullness of the divine feminine presence, is in our consciousness. It is our inner guidance system. It is guiding us to this fuller expression of ourselves. So I just want to talk to you about this a little bit more, the fullest expression of ourselves. The word honor in Hebrew, naish hachaim, I don't know if I'm saying it right, it also means to bless. So the word honor means to give a blessing. And what blessing means is a vibration in the world that you're setting loose. So we're talking here today about a vibration of the Goddess's heart that you have within you. And what a blessing does, says the Hebrew interpretation, giving a blessing draws potentiality into actuality. So that's what mothers do. They see the potential in their children and they're drawing it into actuality. So when we bless someone else, we are agreeing to see with a mother's eyes their potentiality and drawing it into actuality. Well, I know that I could do better at that. I could do better at blessing people. When you think about it, a lot of times we're giving curses out to people instead of blessings. You know, we're seeing them with judgmental eyes instead of with the eyes of the mother's love. When you bless another person, it's as if you are assisting that person's hidden secret to be realized. A blessing is when someone looks into the depths of another soul and sees that person's potential and then speaks that potential into actuality. Will you give a blessing and not a curse? Will you be a mothering person who looks at every person, no matter what they're doing, no matter what they're like, as the Shekinah looks at us? We really need to know the power of this mother's love in this way on our planet right now. I'll conclude with this little story about the great Rabbi Ishmael. He was living in very troubled times, and he was the one who was chosen that year to go into the Holy of Holies. You know, that was in their temple. There was a place that you could go way back in and only one person could go in once a year. And what was in the Holy of Holies, do you remember? The Ark of the Covenant. And what was in the Ark of the Covenant? The Shekinah. That was the Shekinah presence was there. So the divine feminine presence. So once a year, a person could go in there. So it was a very important moment. So this is what Rabbi Ishmael was allowed to do. And he could say just one prayer while he was in there. So he had to really think about that one prayer. So his prayer was this: may it be your will that your mercy surpasses your anger at all of our human mistakes. May your great mercy overcome all your other attributes, so that you may deal with your children on earth with mercy, so that you stop short of the full measure of your justice and show us your mercy. And it was said that God nodded her head to Ishmael. People that went into the Holy of Holies were very afraid, because lots of times they were struck dead. And they would pull them out by a rope tied to their leg. So Rabbi Ishmael said something to the Holy of Holies that was honored, was very good. So the rabbi was saying something that was reflecting to the Shekinah who she really was. This giver of great mercy, not the judge, not the one who would just choose to use divine justice, but rather the shower of great mercy. So when we pray for another person, we are the ones who can show great mercy. When we interact and speak to each other, to our children, to our mates, to anybody that we know, we can honor them and speak a blessing upon them and not a curse. A person who truly blesses with the heart of the mother understands this deep Kabbalistic secret, that the heart of the mother, who created all that is, sends out her energy, her life force, her light through us freely, because she believes in us, because she trusts us enough to be the mirror of her in the world. I just want to honor our mothers for showing us some bit of, some spectrum of that kind of love, light, energy. We get some idea of why honoring the mother within us and honoring the role of mother is so very important when we hear about these Kabbalistic teachings. Because we have to fulfill our divine birthright. Heaven and earth need us to pray the right kind of prayers, right? So that the Shekinah can nod at us and say, yes, you know me, you see me. You are one of those who is able to truly mirror me in the world. So in our fulfilling of our divine birthright, the great mother, her heart, is going to be released from her grief. Because the Kabbalah also says in it that the heart of the mother is now bound on earth in a great grief and a great sorrow. But when we see her and we act as mirrors of who she is and send out blessings and not cursings, we are going to see a celebration of the divine feminine on planet Earth like maybe has never been seen before. We will see the glory shining on her face, reflected in our faces, men and women alike. And children, they're going to rejoice for us adults to really finally get this, because everybody is going to be feeling like we are home at last, in the arms of the Great Mother.